Hey, this is Brandon Ives with Three Partnership Group. Wanted to talk to you about inflation and how that is affecting your home and your insurance. We want to make sure that you are protected properly, and if you do not have the right coverages, it can be devastating to you and to your family. So, let's talk about homeowners policies and how inflation affects it. So, Alex and John bought a home, and as they bought a home, it cost them about of $250,000 in building materials. Not too uncommon. That's a pretty basic standard home purchase and build. Some people might be a lot more, so you might be able to double these numbers in some cases. But let's say they bought their home in 2020 and they had $250,000 in building materials. As we know from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and the producer price index, which talks about inflation and cost, home building costs since the beginning of the pandemic to today has been 35% and a little bit of change. So that's the amount that the cost of your building materials has gone up since the beginning of 2020. So let's say Alex and John have bought their house and it cost them $250,000 to buy. Today, in the end of 2022, that 35% increase would look like $339,000 of building material costs just to rebuild their house. That's a pretty significant jump. Now, imagine that your homeowner's insurance has gone up in price. They automatically will increase your home value every year, but you typically don't see that jump up by 35% over the course of 2, 3 years. So I'm going to give you an example of an 8% increase every year, which, you think about 8%, you think that, yeah, maybe that's, about what inflation has been over the past year or two. This is what your homeowner's insurance would look like cost wise. It would be $250,000 to start out. Then it would jump to 270,000 the next year, and then 291,000 and some change in 2022. But that lags behind what the real costs have been. So if you think about it, your home and inflation, Alex and John have been, pretty consistent with what they've paid in insurance. But if they were to have a claim and need to rebuild the entire home, they would fall short $47,400 if they had to rebuild from the illustration I just gave you. So that's a big deal. How do companies and insurance companies in particular try to prevent this from happening? And what can you do to try to solve that problem? Well, let's talk about solutions, okay? I think solutions are important. And, I'm not here to scare you as much as try to help you figure out why and how you can act to fix this issue. So, first, some companies have what's called guaranteed replacement cost on your home. That means that no matter what the costs are to rebuild your house to exactly the way that it was before, they guarantee the replacement cost on the home. Now, there are not a lot of companies that do this. And, I can tell you that I can only think of maybe one or two off the top of my head that might even offer this as an option. Most companies have gotten away from this. What they offer instead is increased replacement cost, which means that they would add 25% or 50% to your base coverage. Remember that $250,000 amount that we originally talked about. They would increase it by 25% if you were to have a total loss. So if in 2022 your normal insurance is $291,000 because it's increased by 8%, and you had a total loss and you needed to rebuild, that 25% would give you enough coverage at 364,000 to replace the materials you'd need to rebuild. However, this will only last for so long, because if the cost on the backlog of materials and the supply chain issues continue, next year we probably will be in a point where the 8% increase plus the 25% will no longer be effective. And what you'll really need to do is, the third solution, which is increase your insurance coverage. Now, your home, every time that you put insurance on it, it needs to be, insured to value, which means that you need to have it at the current market value in order to make sure that the insurance company is going to be able to replace it if something happens. And then this 25% is used to guard against things like rapid inflation, or let's say a hurricane comes and the price for individuals to repair things shoots up because you have contractors that, increase their price because there's an increase in demand. So those are fine and good options to protect yourself from things like the pandemic. But long term, you want to make sure your coverage is accurate and that you increase your coverage as the cost of rebuilding your home go up. So my final advice to you would be this. You want to make sure that you are reviewing your insurance with a trusted advisor. You want to make sure that you're covered correctly and that there are no gaps in your insurance. So I would encourage you to go and to find somebody to do a review and to figure out how to make sure you are taken care of the right way. I've given you the basic overview of what might make sense for you and how you may be protected currently, but I would be happy to go further into it, do what we would call a replacement cost estimator, and figure out exactly what you need in order to be protected to the best of your ability. And really, that's all we really want to do, is try to figure out how we can protect what you have in the best ways possible. So appreciate your time in watching this. Hopefully it has been helpful. And if you have questions about insurance, whether it's for your home, your auto, your small business, life insurance, know that I'm always here as a resource to help. Take care.